Don't pull it fell off enough. Yeah.
I know. I stopped it.
She stopped. She's getting ready to put it back up.
Okay. Let's see. I'm so glad that everybody is has okay. All right. Can everyone hear us now?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Okay. All right.
Hello.
Hello. All right. I got a thumbs up saying so good so far. Okay.
So far.
Okay. Let's see. Okay. Can someone else speak other than me? And let me see if I get some yeses.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good morning. I'm still in morning mode.
All right. I'm double checking now because let's see. I just said, Grace, can you hear us? I just see a yes. So good so far. Yes, so good so far. All right. Until I see someone else say, no, they can't hear everyone, then we'll go back. All right. We are all back together again. Okay. So, Macon, can you revisit what you were saying about what your program does?
Yeah, so my name is Macon Funderburk. I am the New Choices Program Coordinator at the YWCA Lower Cape Fear. New Choices is a women's empowerment program. We're currently serving about 40 women in the area, in the whole Cape Fear region. Basically what we do is we work to equip women with the support they need to become financially sufficient. So whether that's helping them go back to school, whether that's helping them find a more sustainable career, and even start a small business, that's kind of where our support lies in the community. We do this through group meetings. We do this through one-on-one counseling sessions. And then there's a lot of other moving parts to New Choices. So that's pretty much the gist of what we do there. Thank you, Jhaniqua.
You. Okay, Sean, let's toss it up. Tell us about Step Up Wilmington.
Well, we are a local nonprofit that help people who face barriers to employment, whether it's a criminal history, ageism, sexism, race, whatever barriers that they may face. We provide free soft skills training and training so that they can get satisfied in employment. We begin with the Jobs Week program. Right now, we're doing it virtually. It's called our Jobs Week Boot Camp program, where they come in for 3 days, roughly 3 hours right now. But before COVID-19, it was about a 32-hour program where they came in from Tuesday to Friday. We help them with mock interviews, get clothing, how to address gaps in their resume, how to address criminal history, pretty much you name it, to make cold calls. And then we offer a program after that, which we call Step 2. And this is after they get employment and they're employed for at least 25 hours a week. We bring them and their family in on a Wednesday night for about 9 months or so. And what we do is we continue to equip them to be great employees and even train them how to do public speaking, ask for a raise. And then we just walk alongside of them to the best of our ability.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, Christy?
Yes, I am the Community Outreach Coordinator with the Harrelson Center, and we are a humanitarian service campus. We are located downtown, 20 North 4th Street, downtown Wilmington. And for some of you may know of the Harrelson Center, some of you may not know a little bit. So I want to back up just a tad here just to introduce you to the Harrelson Center. Was purchased in 2005, was created in 2005. And it used to be the New Hanover Law Enforcement Center. And once that new facility was built on Blue Clay Road, this was purchased with the partnership of the Harrelson family and First Baptist Church of Wilmington. And it was named after Johann Carter Harrelson, and with the condition that it was used strictly for humanitarian services. And so we have honored that. Currently, we have 18 nonprofits that are located here on the campus. We have 6 associate partners that are connected with us, but they are established in the community and other locations. But we are also a 501c3. We are a nonprofit. So what we're able to do is provide these nonprofit organizations lower rental rates, utilities, parking, maintenance, security. We have conference rooms, we have training rooms, ongoing education. And one of the unique organic things that happened once we started seeing these nonprofits come on our campus was this collaboration. So these individuals that might come in for financial emergency assistance through the Help Hub, we have advisors set in place. So we're able to hear what that emergency need is, but we're able to really sit down and talk with them and hear their story and realize there's more to what's going on in their life. And so understanding that, we can say, oh, it's employment, so we take them to Step Up. And we understand that it's housing, so we take them to Habitat. Or if it's homelessness, we take them to Family Promise, Teen Court, education, the list, wellness, mental health. So the list goes on, and we're just excited, and it's amazing to see how this collaboration happens on a daily basis with individuals that come through, and being able to place volunteers and being able to span with different nonprofits that are wanting to be a part of the Harrelson Center.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay. I want for you to share.
We can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now I can
Oh,
hear
there
you.
you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Can you share with us why you think employment is so vital to the Wilmington community, and how and why Step Up has chosen that as its mission?
I think you said, why is employment vital to our community, and why did we choose it as our, well, the first one is vital to our community because everyone deserves satisfying employment, and everyone deserves equity and equality. And equity begins with fair wages, fair housing. And many of our community members are in poverty, and one of our goals is to eradicate poverty. And that is really done by employment and just satisfying work. So we all know that once everyone is employed in the community, that money is recycled through our community. So for those people who are working, they're spending their money, their lives, and their entire assets in our community. So therefore, not only does it benefit their family, it benefits everyone there. And we chose that as our mission is because we feel like everyone is needed. Like if you are struggling and we have an opportunity to help you, why can't we do that? So our desire is to not only put people back in jobs, but to put them in a position where they can thrive in our community, not just survive. And we also know that poverty drastically impacts African Americans in our region. Mm-hmm. So it's essentially out of the I think it's, I'm trying to remember, it's about 24,000 African Americans in our community, and about 41% of us live in poverty.
Wow.
In comparison to 17% of our white counterparts. Now that's crazy. Yeah. If you think about that, we're in a region, over 100,000 people here, 200,000 in our entire area, and 41% of that belongs to African American as it pertains to poverty. So our desire is to attack that head on to build a community with the help of everyone on this call and everyone else that is attractive for everyone. And it brings health and wealth to all of the people who live here.
Absolutely. And Christy, can you talk a little bit about some of your specific programs that kind of help the community as well?
Sure. Well, as far as the different programs we have, it's a broad spectrum here when you look at all the different nonprofits that are here, and then in different sectors. Like we have Step Up with employment. We have the Cairo Center that is able to promote and guide people finding their purpose through entrepreneurship. We have education with communities and schools. We've got a great program that they just launched this past week called Freedom Schools. It's been
yes.
empowering, and just to see these children with the structure and just celebrating their culture, and it's just amazing to see this happening in our community. We're very excited about that. The Young Scientist Academy with coding for girls, tutoring. We have Teen Court that just started a new sentencing circle to help young teens. And we also have housing, Habitat, Family Promise, helping families that are experiencing the domestic violence and homelessness. And so with the Help Hub alone, I wanted to share a statistic that in 2019, we had 3,296 individuals walk through that door. And the Help Hub has been in existence for 5 years. So last year, over 3,000 individuals came through, and 60% of those were African American.
Wow.
And this is a disparity. This is something that we see, that these individuals probably don't have these resources or know of these resources that they can reach out to, or they have families that are able to support them. So this is something that we see that we're really wanting to dig in, and that is some of the organizations, but internally we're looking at Racial Equity Institute, being able to train our staff with them, and some other issues that I'm sure I'll be able to answer along the way within this hour. Lots going on. Lots going on.
I mean, and I think it's important to the community to know that when they go to the Harrelson Center, that they are presented with a variety of services that they can participate in and partake in, not just one particular need. But a lot of times when you're addressing racial disparities, it is a layered subject. It is a layered tactic that, that has to be dealt with. So speaking of racial disparities, how have they shown up in your line of work? How have you seen racial disparities show up in your line of work? And for those who are listening, can you describe to us what that looks like?
Me? Or
anyone.
Let's let somebody else go first. I talk too much.
So I don't know if the audience caught what I do originally. So I am the board president for the YWCA, and the YWCA their mission is to eliminate racism, empower women, promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So, we live in some trying times right now. And because we are one of the oldest women's organization, this is a part of what we are focused on doing at this particular time, which is advocating for racial justice, social justice, and change. And as I said before, I created what was called Northside Bridge Builders, and that was after Hurricane Florence. So remembering, and I tell people I have PTSD from Hurricane Florence, and Christy can kind of back me up on this, but being out, understanding the dynamics of our community, and as Sean has given a ratio of disparities among African American to white, we are disproportionately. We didn't get resources in certain communities, which was needed Funding does not come down easily for some communities that's needed. And so I think my job as an individual, or what I have been called to do, was be a bridge for people and resources, be an advocate for those persons who don't necessarily know how to navigate where they need to go, who they need to see. And as being a part of the Y, some years ago, we created Potluck for Peace, which is a dialogue that we started to have those conversations when it comes to race disparities amongst our own community. And so it's important to me that we continue a dialogue, but with the hopes of having some outcomes. One of the things that I've talked about within the past couple of days is we always talk about what we want to do and what we want to see and how we want to see change, but we don't have outcomes. There are never outcomes, and we see things coming up again. So at this point, my question would be, even for the community, what are some outcomes that we could see from some of the things that we have put in place to make change and make equity and equality for all?
I think that's a good question, and I definitely would love to answer that. We did get a comment. Someone has a question about what are freedom schools. And Christy, you can jump in. I don't know if anyone else knows about freedom schools, but freedom schools was created during the civil rights era, and they use literacy to teach kids. They use hip hop and music and jazz and interaction and activity, the use of your whole body, to teach children about literacy and history. I was privileged to have some of the GSN kids attend freedom schools, and they absolutely love it. Some of the kids, especially African American children, there's a statistic out there that says by the third grade, Black boys are already behind in reading. And so the one thing that I loved about freedom schools is it's a fun literacy program where they don't even understand that they're spelling. So they spell freedom, but they spell it while clapping and stomping and singing. And so freedom schools really uses a nuanced approach to teach children about the fundamentals of reading. So hope that answers your question. If anybody else would like to add to it, we would love your support for Freedom Schools. So thank you, communities and schools out there. Ms. Keisha, Mr. Mario Jeter, Davante Howard are just a couple of the people that have put the program together, and it's hosted also at Gregory this year. So I really hope that the community also rallies behind Freedom School to host it again next year. Because it's a great program. And they offered it free of cost also to all of the children who participated. So that's another great thing about Freedom Schools. So getting back to Evelyn, your question about what do outcomes look like? I can say for GSN, we use a Circle of Parents model, which is kind of like a peer support group. And our outcomes say, if we are supporting people constantly, not necessarily by telling them what to do, but by holding their hand, giving them space to be honest, giving them space to have respite care, that throughout the length of time with that support, that their children are able to graduate high school, that the kids are able to combat some of the 5 protective factors that are really needed to decrease childhood trauma. So for GSN, that's kind of what our outcomes are looking like. We want our children to graduate high school. We don't want any kid in our program to be a high school dropout, because we know if they don't graduate high school, then that lack of degree also means that there may potentially be a lack of income, or lack of job opportunities, a lack of education. So we are really big on high school graduation and helping our kids graduate by any means necessary. I believe at the YWCA, our outcomes are very similar. We want those who come to the Y to leave with some type of tool, some type of resource to empower their lives and to give them a better chance, a better opportunity, a better outlook, a different type of mentality, when they're looking at their problems. And I'm not sure anybody else would like to answer what your outcomes look like for your programs.
Yes, so for Step Up Wilmington, over the next several years, we want to place 1,000 jobs. And we have that, we call that our 10,000 Lives campaign, because we know that one job impacts 10 people. So you're impacting people in your own household, when you're going out shopping, and all the places that you support in the community. And also another outcome that's quantifiable is decrease unemployment in our region. And not only decrease unemployment, but we also want to make sure that, to the best of our ability, that we're not only getting people jobs, but we're trying to get people jobs at the cost of living. And we know in Wilmington, the cost of living can be $16. Like, just for one person alone, you have to make at least $12 and some change an hour. And that number goes up the more people that are added to your family.
Sean, can you speak more to what that looks like? So you use the term living wage. What does that mean? How does that manifest itself? What does that look like for a person that is in your program that living in our community?
So that's a great question. A livable wage in Wilmington, like if you just think about the average rent, it's around $1,000 a month. So if you're making $7.25, $7.50 an hour, you're not going to have a livable wage. Like, you need to make at least $12 an hour for just you and your household alone, to be able to afford the average rent, to even grocery shop, and to go out and do things that we take for granted, like going out to eat, taking care of your family, putting your children in childcare. Some of those things we just take for granted because we have a livable wage. So ideally, we would love for everyone to make at least $16 an hour. So not only are you able to survive, you're able to thrive. And what we do is we partner with other organizations within the communities and employers that are willing to try to pay their employees a livable wage. They may not be able to start them out with $12 or $13 an hour, but their goal is to bring them in at the highest wage available, and then continue to build them up. And we are very intentional about the organizations that we partner with, to make sure that they understand how poverty impacts our community, how poverty impacts African Americans, and how those who may even have a criminal history, they don't necessarily have to have a scarlet letter, how they can be great employees and even wonderful entrepreneurs. So those are some of the things that we are very intentional about, and we make sure that those who are connected with us believe in the same mission and vision that we have.
Yeah.
Can I tag on that for a second?
Absolutely.
Tag on what Sean's saying? And with his organization and what we're wanting to support and promote here at the Harrelson Center, is one of the things that they say at Step Up Wilmington, and they instill in people, is the mind shifted: you are a valuable person of great worth. You're a valuable person of great worth. And for people coming through these doors and they don't feel that, and to hear that repeatedly with Step Up, and to be able to come through these programs and to feel empowered and strengthened, and building that character, seeing them accomplish what they're doing with each one of these nonprofits, and then come back as volunteers. And knowing the impact how it's changed their lives, that is one of the outcomes that just resonates here within the Harrelson Center.
And what about you, Macon?
For outcomes? Yeah, so I don't know if you all kind of were able to hear me at first, but New Choices is very similar to Step Up, in that we help women get back into the workforce. So kind of similar to what Sean was saying, it's a lot of matching people to jobs. That's how we measure our outcomes. And same as what he was saying, not just any job, a job that helps them to feel dignified, a job that helps them to feel empowered. So it's a lot more than, just a livable wage. It's also having that confidence to go into a job that you feel good and you feel valued there at that position that you're working at. And then we also measure outcomes in graduations and certificates earned, because we do assist women in going back to school. So like this past spring, we had one woman graduate from the nursing program at Cape Fear. And Cape Fear is one of the best nursing programs in the state. So we were very proud of her. We measure success in that way. Small businesses that are created, working through small business loans, helping people network. So those are some of the ways that we measure our successes and our outcomes.
I love that. And with all of the great work that everyone is seeming to be doing, what have been some of the challenges that you faced?
COVID-19.
COVID-19.
I think
I'm just seeing people here. We know that all of the nonprofits are working so diligently and remotely in their spaces, but just that energy of being able to see what usually happens here. We know it's happening and people are working very hard, but I do miss seeing some of the energy and ready for it to come back. So yes.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead, Sean.
I was just thinking of how I want to say this. So before COVID-19, we had a goal of placing 250 people in jobs. After COVID-19, you know, the world shut down for a period of time, but we were still able to place place 201 jobs last year for our fiscal year just ended. So that's amazing. And you say some of the things that we face, like our current society is a barrier to equity and equality, not only in our local area, but across our nation. We're seeing division, we're seeing hatred, we are seeing racism at its all-time highest. And with that, people are turning inward and are afraid to come out and do certain things. So what I see as a barrier is also what I think we're trying to do in this community is turn it around to a positive and saying, enough is enough, so let's move together, and let's move together, or let's move together in such a way that everyone will be faced with equity and equality. So the barriers that I've mentioned, I also see turn into a positive if we just continue to work towards it and fight for equity and equality. I'm seeing more unity now than I've seen in the past, and we're seeing a lot of things happening, but it's just kind of a beginning. So I guess I just want to say we're doing our best to turn water into lemonade with lemons. So.
Perfect. We actually have a question about how do you prevent burnout by being in the nonprofit world? And I think that is a very good question because all of us are in that position. I will go ahead and speak for me. Boundaries. It's very hard, but there are moments where you may need to take a day off and you do nothing but color and paint and dance in the rain. You know, there are moments where you just have to take time and you may feel defeated or you didn't get that grant, you know, that you worked so hard for, and you know, your client decided that they were going to skip school that day and you are just tired of, you know, saying, no, you have to be in school. You have to be in school. So I think burnout is very, it happens definitely in nonprofit, but creating boundaries so that you can do some self-care has really been what's helped me.
Yeah, I think,
go ahead, Macon.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
I can't finish talking.
It's okay.
Jhaniqua actually she called me out on this one day. Is I think it's very important to have compassion when you are working in the nonprofit realm. I think if you are unable to empathize with people, then this definitely isn't the career for you. But unfortunately, a lot of people have a little too much empathy, I think. I consider myself one of those people. And so I think that if you are one of those empaths, making sure that, you know, your workday is 8 to 5 or your workday is 9 to 5, you know, don't go ahead in your emails at 11 p.m. and respond to that emergency. You'll be there tomorrow to help them. You know, weekends are for you. It's hard to draw those lines with your clients because, I mean, you really do love and care about them. But at the end of the day, you know, it is important to separate yourself so that you can maintain that professionalism and maintain the ability to really help them. And I don't know, I think that's something that Jhaniqua taught me. And so that's something I think that is important to keep in mind if you're in the nonprofit realm.
Yeah.
also
And I
think
would,
it's balance, being able to find that balance. And it is just amazing how there's always a story and there's always that person that you've been working with, or that situation that happens where it comes back and you are able to witness the goodness that's happened and transpired. And that just kind of keeps you going, you know, it spurs on and wanting to initiate and help that next person. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Sean.
I would say self-care, number one, and honesty. Like you have to be honest with yourself because there will be peaks and valleys. I mean, you can't help everyone, but you have to be honest with yourself and understand when you're really not okay and it's time for you to step back. Like, so take care of yourself, be honest with yourself and say, listen, I'm not okay. And it's okay to not be okay, but you have to realize that. Like, I have to realize that we're all operating with some form of trauma, especially living in this region. We're dealing with COVID-19, Florence, and all of these things. Like, we're not necessarily walking away from those things. We're walking through those things. So you just have to realize where you are and take a good self-assessment. So self-care, honesty, and for me, it's what I try to teach the staff too, is never forget the why behind what you're doing. Because we could do this so often and so hard and forget why we're doing it. And then when you're not connected to the why, it's a lot easier to get burned out because everything seems like a problem. And it's not a problem all the time. It's an opportunity to make a change. So that's what I would say.
Okay, Miss Evelyn, wrap us up with this question.
So I agree with everything that everybody said, especially Sean. To me, it's the why. Like I said before, I consider myself a bridge to all that I do. And I think that the why is what keeps me going. But I realize that too, self-care and having boundaries, because I don't want to necessarily be woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, can you help me do XYZ, when there's nothing I can do at 3 o'clock. And so it's the renewing of my mind and ability. And I think that is foremost, but also being able to find those persons who support you in what you do. I think that's important, just not persons, but organizations, because a lot of times people, they see where you're going and they want to get there just like you do, but they don't want to take the time or the steps to do that. And so for me, it's important to align myself with people who are really concerned and who really want to see a change made.
Excellent. All right. What is your hope for the Wilmington community and nonprofits? What is your hope for how the nonprofits in the area, how can we continue to answer the cries and the needs for the community? And what do you think your organization's roles in it? And I will go ahead and kind of start. One thing that we saw at the YWCA was that there was a need for people to come together. There was a need for conversation and dialogue to take place in a healthy way, for people to be honest and vulnerable, but provided with like direction and information, so that we can move forward. And so one of our answers to the cries of the community, we've done a couple of things. One is the 21-day challenge. And I really hope that everybody has joined in the 21-day challenge. If not, please go to the YWCA website. It's a self-paced program, but literally for 21 days, you will learn about the history of Wilmington. You learn about racial disparities, the statistics of those things, how they look like, how to use inclusive language, and some history of our country that you may not have known. We feel like education is a big part for helping our community move forward. And then second will be to do these talks once a month, bring people from around the city, around the country together to talk about how they are making a difference. And like I said in the beginning, sometimes it feels like there's so many problems that no one is addressing the problems, and there's so many issues that no one is addressing the issues. But I hope that through these conversations that people will find resources, they find organizations to connect with, that they can get assistance, and that there are people out there who are making a difference. So again, how can we continue to respond to the community, and how can our nonprofits continue to serve the community at large?
So I want to share something. Several years ago, I live on the north side of Wilmington, and it has always been, when we talk about nonprofits, I've always seen the dynamics where, people are struggling, or nonprofit agencies are struggling because they want to be able to do X, Y, Z, but are afraid that, another nonprofit is doing it. And what I've learned through those years is that it's okay for nonprofits to support one another and to feed off of one another. And I can honestly say I've seen a difference on the north side, where we had communities and people who come together and work together to better their community. It's always been interesting to me. And so even with the Y and what the Y does, we try to do the same thing. When Potluck for Peace was started, it was to bring about those conversations and dialogue through food and fellowship. But now that we're in the corona and we're trying to navigate those electronical and technical devices, it's become a challenge. But I'm hoping that, and I'm going to throw this plug in, because July the 16th, we have Potluck for Peace coming up in the Rona, and it's geared towards our youth in the community. And I'm excited because we have some awesome women that are panelists, and I thank you for Jhaniqua for doing this, but stepping up to the challenge to making sure that our youth are also included in conversations, because they are the voice of our future. And I think that that's very important with what we're doing today.
Yes. Absolutely.
Very excited about that event that's going to be happening. Evelyn was able to come to the Harrelson Center and speak to several of the youth ministers that are connected with the Help Hub, and just to dig deeper with these relationships with our youth, because we haven't heard their voice through all of this since the pandemic started. Like, they have something to say, and to be able to provide this platform and this space for youth, for teens to come and just have an honest, open dialogue and conversation. I just feel like this can be the next step and the next step and the next step. And something that has spurred with the Resiliency Task Force, and it was created a historical trauma and racism workshop. Several individuals here at the Harrelson Center were involved with that, and we were with ongoing quarterly meetings, but because of COVID, we weren't able to meet. And several, 6 strong women here in the community have come together to create a Facebook page called Clear. And if you are not connected with this, I ask and urge you to like that page. It's called Community Clear, which is community linking and educating against racism. And it's a safe platform where people who may have been fighting for racial justice their whole life, or people that are just entering into what this is, it's educating, and it's a place where people can learn, and a place where people know what the events that are happening in our community, where they can go and connect. So I truly believe that's what's going to heal part of our community, is connecting and listening, learning, being humble, and being able to move forward together with that. And my hope is unity and lasting change. I want lasting change to happen. So I feel like with all that's been torn, I feel like we can mend it back together, being able to come together as a community and be able to come together as nonprofits, or with education and employment, just being able to have that support system and move forward. I think that we can become stronger. I think stronger and strength isn't a place of perfection. I think we need to be able to say, oh, we didn't get that right, but let's keep moving forward. I think strength is a place of perseverance, and I think we can get that lasting change together.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sean.
Great question. I hope, very similar to what Christy and Evelyn was saying, I hope that we just continue to work together to make a lasting change. And just personally, I would love to see Wilmington become the community it once was, and it become a place where my children will want to come and raise their children, regardless whether they spend the rest of their young adult lives here or not. But I want Wilmington to become that place where it's a thriving community for all, especially African-American, especially young Black women. I would love to see Wilmington become a place where we see ourselves reflected in the highest leadership. And I think the nonprofit work that we're doing in this community, not just Step Up Wilmington, but the 40 or 50 something nonprofits we have here that are working towards a lasting change. And we're at a place now where we're beginning to see some of those things truly come to fruition. But we have to recognize that there's a lot of work left to do.
What thing is Macon?
Something that I really hope to see in regards to nonprofits and also just our community in general is just continued advocacy on behalf of our brothers and sisters of color specifically. I think that Sean can probably relate to me, and this is that in his line of work, and I mean, specifically working with women as well, hiring and workplace discrimination is real, especially racial discrimination. I don't experience it, but many of my clients do. And I'm tired of seeing them going through that. And so I think having me to advocate for them on their behalf, having, you know, people in Step Up there to advocate for them, even just their coworkers, just making sure that you stand up and speak out when you see that something's wrong. Because really, you know, race claims at work are the most commonly reported instances of discrimination, and yet they usually result in no compensation. I think that the EEOC said like 15% of those result in any compensation. So, you know, we don't always see action taken on that. So I think that it's very important for us as nonprofits to be those people that can stick up for them, to listen to them, to validate our clients. You know, it's something that's really important to me. There is a wage gap still between races, and I'd like to see that close in Wilmington. So some of the ways that we can do that are just, you know, to check our own biases. You know, everybody has them. I know that I have them. You know, educate yourself, like the 21-day challenge. That's a great way to educate yourself. So really just advocacy. That's my biggest thing. I'd love to see more of that. And well, we are doing it, but I'd love to see that continue on in our community until, you know, that wage gap is closed. I'd love to see that until there's no more workplace discrimination.
And I think that that's a great note to end on, because that is what all of our missions are, is to bring equity and equality back. And before we go, I would like to again thank our CEO of the YWCA, Bevel Jenkins. We'd like to thank the the Upper Mid African American Cultural Center at UNCW for sponsoring today's event. I would also like to thank Christy, Evelyn, Macon, and Sean for taking the time out of your busy schedules to share your voice, your concern, your hopes. We really appreciate it. And in this last couple of minutes, I will let each of you say just kind of a wrap-up line of what you would like for them to know, maybe about you, about your organization. And thank you so much for tuning in to our first Talk on Race. So we'll start with Christy. Christy, one-liner.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so horrible.
The pressure, right?
I would just say, if any of this strikes a spark in anyone listening, whether it's an organization or an individual, get plugged in and just and read and encourage, volunteer. And the more you volunteer, the more you learn and the more you see what the possibilities are for our community.
All right, Ms. Macon.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for sharing with us today, and to everybody out there, make sure that you're always listening and advocating for and taking action for the people in your community.
All right, Ms. Evelyn.
You're muted.
Muted.
Ms. Evelyn, let me unmute you.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you, Jhaniqua, for allowing me to be able to participate. One of the quotes that I always like to share is from Obama, where he says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." And on that, I want to remind everybody about Potluck for Peace, Youth Edition, Rona, Racial Justice in the Rona. So that's July the 16th at 6 p.m. on Zoom and Facebook Live.
Thank you so much. And we're going to end with Mr. Sean Bynum.
All right. I echo the same sentiments. Thank you for having us up here. Thank all the people who joined us live. And what I would love for everyone to know about Step Up Wilmington is we step up for social justice and equity. That's really it.
All right. It's 1 o'clock. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Have a great afternoon.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Bye.